Welcome to Creature Kind Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. Today we are going to be going over a new long necked sauropod dinosaur discovery, as well as some activity going on in Western Southern Africa, as well as Asia, and I believe over in Northern Europe. So we are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. Who seems to be either some species of brachiosaur sauropod dinosaur or a species of Titanosaur. It could be a diplodocid, but now that I'm seeing armor here and also having an overall more robust sort of, also a bit more of like a stocky sort of an appearance, probably not a member of the diplodocid lineage of sauropod dinosaurs. And since we're seeing birds in the picture, this is likely taking place during the Cretaceous period. Not that there weren't birds during the end of the late Jurassic around 150 million years ago, but they're very primitive in overall structure. But this could be taking place during some time in the Middle Cretaceous. So from the Smithsonian Magazine.com, African Titanosaur discovery helps untangle dinosaur evolution. The creature reveals ancient connection between Africa, Europe, and Asia after the Great Pangea broke apart. Well, I mean, Pangea was already breaking apart, you could say, back in the late Triassic, around 210 million years ago. It was very minimal in the amount of separation that was occurring, but definitely continued during the Jurassic period, which spanned between 202 million years ago to about 145 million years ago. And by the early Cretaceous, there was definitely a lot of breakup, but there were still many parts of the Earth that were connected in which different species, especially of large dinosaurs, could move. So, a newly discovered long necked dinosaur could be the missing piece to the puzzle of African dinosaur evolution. Found in Egypt's western desert, Mansurosaurus shahani weighed almost as much as a bull African elephant and was as long as a bus. Okay, so this is definitely a smaller species of Titanosaur. I mean, if we're talking about an African bush elephant, somewhere around 7.5 tons, that's an larger average individual. African bush elephants can become larger, but they're extremely rare. Pushing as long as a bus, so I'm guessing around 35 to 40 feet, or pushing 11 to 12 meters. I'm guessing that this was during a time in the Cretaceous of Egypt in which there was enough forage to supply animals that weighed 7 to 10 tons in the region, but it wasn't as lush as certain regions of South America, maybe even other areas of Africa, because you had it where back in the late Cretaceous, um, there were different species of sauropods that could weigh well over 35 tons. So this maybe was just in a region where there was less forage available, or it's just smaller species that coexisted with the larger sauropods. It trumped across Africa during the late Cretaceous between 66 and 100 million years ago. That is a long period of time. There aren't any species of dinosaurs, even genre, that have existed for this long of a period. This is literally the whole late Cretaceous. A period that is a blank spot in the records for African dinosaurs, George Dvorsky reports for Gizmodo. Although it may not look particularly different than other long-necked ancient beasts, you may have seen that that's exactly what's caught paleontologists' attention. During this period, many researchers believed that Africa had drifted away from other land masses as an isolated island continent, according to the new study published this week in the journal Nature Ecology and Evolution. But others think that there may have still been some connections or mixing of species. The remarkable similarity of this newly discovered African species to sauropods found in both Europe and Asia suggests that creatures commingled much later than expected, reports National Geographic's Sarah Gibbons.
Well, it is National Geographic after all.
Yeah, so far it's a bit kind of blank into what's going on here. Let's bring up a species. Now, this wasn't over in Africa, but it did exist back in the Cretaceous. So Austroposeidon, Austroposei. Show up. So this is a larger species of sauropod dinosaur, and it is also a member of the Titanosaur. Well, I'm guessing the other one's Titanosaur lineage of sauropods. However, this animal did not exist in Africa. It existed over in South America, and precisely Brazil, around 98 million years ago. So this was during the beginning of the late Cretaceous. It's very possible that the animal that they discovered might have been too. However, judging by the large round osteoderms on its back on the picture, it's probably a saltosaur. There were saltosaurs, which are a member of the Titanosaur group.
Wait a minute, I have one of your favorite.
Oh no, not these guys. Interesting. It added that specific sac, and it seems to be that the birds he's releasing the birds from himself. He also has like a bit of like a locomotive or a steam engine sort of appearance.
Look at its teeth.
Yeah, very serrated. Its tongue's also sticking up to an extent. Extremely large head compared to its body size. Sauropods, on average, had very small heads relative to their body size. There were certain species like Nigersaurus were slightly larger, but still not very big. Yeah,
Looks like he has an infection.
yeah, it does. That's a it's so far there doesn't seem to be any evidence for different species of sauropods to have a certain sac that you see on different species of birds today, especially certain birds over in the Galapagos Islands. Now, what was it? Oh, so the Ostropocydon. When it comes to, oh, was that him? This is from Prehistoric Planet. This was actually one of the dinosaur models. Well, there are a number of them, but in the show that I was not very pleased with. This, it seems like one of those reconstructions from the late 2010s or even the beginning of the 2020s, where many species of Titanosaur sauropod specifically were reconstructed as being extremely tall, very short core, and a very short tail as well. Probably depending on the species due to a lack of remains, considering Ostropocydon, we have only found certain parts of like fragmentary remains of the animal, possibly like certain vertebrae from the neck, so cervical vertebrae, and maybe even caudal vertebrae from the tail. But overall, I think that the picture of well, the picture originally might be a bit more realistic, but I just think it's a bit stiff in this instance. But this animal could reach well over 82 feet in length, or pushing somewhere around 25 meters. Probably weighed up to 40, somewhere around 40 to 45 tons. It's one of the larger species of titanosaurs. You could say medium size when looking at the largest titanosaur species. Oh yeah, so some other ornithopods in the region. It's not hitting me what specific species. Ornithopods or relatives of the iguanodontids or the group of dinosaurs in which the iguanodontids belong to were not very common over in South America. There have been a handful of different species that have been discovered. Doesn't seem like any hadrosaurs existed during the late Cretaceous, even back in South America. However, hadrosaurs, no, not the hadrosaurs, there were different species of primitive iguanodontids that existed. So Ostropocydon, though, likely did have to come into contact with different species of large carcharodontosaur predators that existed during the beginning of the late Cretaceous as well, as well as some odd members of the Paravest lineage of theropod dinosaurs. Let's see. So, um, yeah, let's head back to the article. So, when I first saw pics of the fossils, my jaw hit the floor. Paleontologist and paper co author Matt Lamana of Carnegie Museum of Natural History says in a press release, this was the Holy Grail, a well preserved dinosaur for the end of the age of dinosaurs in Africa that we paleontologists had been searching for a long, long time. I'm confused because they're making it out like this was going to give us a massive insight into some, I'm guessing, Titanosaur sauropod evolution, probably even more specifically the Saltosaurs. But now it sounds like they found it to the very end of the Cretaceous around like 67, 68 million years ago. So this is I don't exactly know what they or we don't really have an idea of what they found. The fossil is the most complete dinosaur skeleton yet discovered in Africa from the late Cretaceous, reports the BBC's Helen Briggs. It includes part of a skull, lower jaw, neck, and spine vertebrae, ribs, partial shoulder, forelimb, and hind foot, and pieces of dermal plates. This is a decent amount coming from a sauropod, even a smaller species. This completeness allowed researchers to analyze the dinosaur's anatomy, comparing it to other creatures that lived at the time in Europe and Asia. It shows Africa wasn't this strange lost world of dinosaurs that lived nowhere else, Lamana tells Briggs. That at least some African dinosaurs had other close relations in other continents at the time. This runs counter to the last African dinosaur discovery, Sarah Sloit's reports for Inverse, when researchers found a 66 million-year-old Tyrannosaurus barbaricus. It was so distinct that they include African dinosaurs must have been isolated from other regions. Mansurosaurus was a titanosaur, a subgroup of the long-necked plant-eating sauropods that roamed the Cretaceous. This group includes some of the largest dinosaur species, including Argentinosaurus dreadnoughtus and Patagotitan majorum. Except Patagotitan looks like is an invalid genus and is just other remains. It looks like it could be other remains of Argentinosaurus, though it's still debated. Although large, Mansurosaurus was actually relatively small compared to its kin. Yeah, when you're comparing Mansurosaurus, if this is the specific animal in the picture that they're referring to, it's a relatively small sauropod. I mean, it's smaller than Triceratops, which could still reach somewhere around 15 tons. Researchers are thrilled about the find and are hopeful they can continue to tease out the lineage of these ancient beasts. It's like finding an edge piece that you use to help figure out what the picture is that you can build from, says Field Museum research scientist and study co-author Eric Gorskak in the press release.
My God,
Maybe
how many people are in this?
a lot, maybe even a quarter piece. Um okay, well, it's unfortunate that they didn't show us the bones. Um Actually, let's pull up one other species of dinosaur that it's very possible coexisted with the Australoposidon, but not necessarily this species. So I'm guessing it's at the very end of the dinosaurs. Um, yeah, let's bring it up anyway. Turumvenator, Tauroven. So it should be like a large species of dinosaur that, or carnivorous dinosaur that popped up.
I'm going to start with your favorite.
Oh no, these guys. Yeah,
Again, an infection.
it almost looks like somebody combined a medium-sized species of Tyrannosaur with an Allosaur and you could say slight Carcharodontosaur traits, and then the massive sac, which is certainly possible and likely with smaller species of theropod dinosaurs, though it has been shown with certain medium-sized species of theropods.
Oh,
But
this is strange.
yeah, this AI picture is nobody specifically. Is this another one?
Yeah.
This looks more of like the silly Jurassic World Dominion Giganotosaurus look, which is completely out of proportion. It's skinny. The head is very off compared to the actual skull or realistic skull reconstruction. It all seems to be a bit less heavily built. And I'm referring to the movie, but this head looks quite similar. Interesting. So this is Teralvinator. Well, this is one Teralvinator reconstruction. Um they definitely gave it a very like thin and narrow sort of um jaw structure. Almost not necessarily a megaraptor, but like somebody mixed a certain species of megalosaur from the Jurassic. Like even certain Metracanthosaurs, they existed into the Cretaceous period
Right.
with a megaraptor, especially when you're looking at the claws too.
I have a DeviantArt one.
But they added feathers. That's quite surprising. There we go. That's who I was expecting. So, Terminator also is a somewhat recently discovered species of theropod dinosaur as well. But this was one of the largest species of carcharodontosaurs to exist. It could reach well over 42 feet in length or pushing 13 meters and probably weighed somewhere around 8 to 9 tons. So, approaching the size of T Rex. But this animal, however, had, like many species of carcharodontosaurs, not as robust of a skull structure compared to T Rex. However, it has been reconstructed with having quite relatively thick neck structure for different species, for carcharodontosaurs in general. So, yes, it is related to the Carcharodontosaurus that existed over in Africa at around the same time, specifically Egypt and Morocco. This animal, however, is from Argentina over in southern South America, around 98 million years ago. So, likely maybe reaching certain areas of Brazil and feeding on the Austroposeidon,
Okay, this one looks like it has a lot of
reconstructed him with fairly small arms.
defects.
Yeah, he's got issues. I wonder if it's supposed to represent another Carcharodontosaur. Even if it is, however, it's got a very weird, extremely small feet compared to its body size. I think the ankle or the shin bone might be a bit long, but actually, the leg in general is a bit long compared to its body size. Um, Despite the Carcharodontosaurs being a bit more slender, slightly in shape compared to T Rex, maybe even Tarbosaurus to an extent, but I'd specifically say T Rex because Tarbosaurus, which is basically the Mongolian or Asian close relative of T Rex, in many cases you could say is like just a more slenderly built T Rex. It still has its very distinct features, but this is yeah, very off. The arms are also far too skinny. It is weird though, with the Carcharodontosaurs as they increased in size, different members of Allosauridae, which is a massive family of theropod dinosaurs in which the Carcharodontosaurs and Terminator belong to, ended up not really increasing the size of their arms. They might have added slightly a bit more muscle to them, maybe evolving slightly larger fingers, but compared to earlier relatives like Allosaurus itself, they didn't really increase in size too much. Though there was more muscle added to the overall animal in general, and they still retain their more slenderly um, built sort of skull structure to an extent. Obviously, more powerful than the earlier Allosaurs. It is a mystery as to why around 95 million years ago that the massive Carcharodontosaurs went extinct. So let's head forward in time over to Africa. From news.mongabay.com, camera trap captures spotted hyena in Gabon National Park, the first in 20 years. So this happened a few years back in 2018, but I had not heard of it.
Wait, where's Gabon?
Gabon is just south of Equatorial Guinea and as well Cameroon, or basically southeast of Nigeria, over in western, say somewhat. It's basically central Western Africa. Well, that's a very interesting picture of a spotted hyena.
Where's his face?
Yeah, he's, I guess, quickly trotting. So researchers have captured a camera trap photograph of a spotted hyena crocuta crocuta in a national park in Gabon, where the predator hasn't been seen for 2 decades. This is still really good to hear. Let's keep going. Conservation groups have heralded the hyena's return as a sign that wildlife is returning to Bateke Plateau National Park. Oh, interesting. I was going to guess maybe Laonga National Park over on the coast of um, western Gabon, literally right on the coast of the Atlantic. So that's interesting. I'm not too familiar with this other national park. There are around 13 different national parks in the country of Gabon, and I believe some around 50 different protected areas. But I think, like anywhere, there are certain protected areas that, in quote, exist in Gabon as well as many other sub Saharan African countries, but there's not really anything being, there's not any protection going on or tourism, as well as wildlife research in general. So, During our 2001 Pateke lion survey, besides a single image of one small antelope in this vicinity, sheesh, there are around 17 different species of antelope native to Gabon, many of them being the smaller Duker antelope species, which are amongst the most abundant species of antelope that exist in Africa in general. Certain species are somewhere between or somewhere around 8 million individuals. So let's see. We only photographed poachers coming in from Congo. That is sad.
No animals, just poachers.
I will say though, this was even in my mind a very stereotype look of Central African protected areas in general. I was actually guessing, like wondering, but this is much further east, like Uganda, Rwanda, that these places where you could see the gorillas, even certain chimps, they didn't really exist. More specifically, the gorillas. No, no, no. I mean, there's different populations and groups that people are able to go up to, but especially in Cameroon, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, certain parts of the Republic of the Congo, Democratic Republic of the Congo. Um, yeah, a bit less so. Philip Henschel, a wildlife biologist and head of Panthera's West and Central Africa Regional Lion Program, said in a statement, "To see these large carnivores in the same landscape now is incredibly exciting and promising." So, referring to that single hyena. Yeah, it's like, woohoo. He's here. Question is, where did he come from? I think many people um, assume that spotted hyenas are very common. Oh, we got a lion here. It's a young one, too.
So we don't have the hyena, but we have the lion.
Yeah, with a small mane. Well, here's the problem. And even recently, there are, I mean, what, lone lion of Gabon photographed recently in the Bateka Plateau National Park. Here's the shocking thing. He's probably one of the only lions, this was a while ago too, in Gabon. They are scarce, extremely rare. So there's only around maybe 40,000 hyenas, spotted hyenas specifically, because Um, Africa does host all four species: the Ard wolf, which is the smallest hyena, the striped hyena but those two species are situated over in northern Africa. Sometimes striped hyena can range in certain areas of sub-Saharan Africa, and the brown hyena that mainly inhabits southern sub-Saharan Africa, so like Namibia, South Africa, Botswana. But spotted hyenas, there are only maybe 40,000 of them. At least that's been the estimate for maybe 10 to 15 years or more, kind of like with the Lions. So they have not had a recent update in the estimates for spotted hyenas across sub-Saharan Africa. They're not really that common. Poaching decimated wildlife species, including lions and hyenas, in the 2,034 square kilometer or 785 square mile park, which the government of Gabon established in 2002. But since then, reintroduced western lowland gorillas, listed as critically endangered by the IUCN, have taken up residence in the park. And in 2015, a camera trap also nabbed a picture of a lion. Oh, is this from 2015? Jeez. Well, it's probably like what, 11 or 12, maybe 13. Gorillas, lions, hyenas, the remarkable return of these headline making species is not only an indicator of the success of 2 decades of hard work, but also inspires us to keep pushing the restoration forward, said Tony King, who coordinates the reintroduction program at the Aspinall Foundation, the organization that spearheaded the release of the gorillas beginning in the 1990s. Let's see, where was it? Oh, Gabon also, when it comes to their giraffe population, there are not any giraffes in Gabon, mainly because the habitat does not suit them. It is also not preferable habitat for any species of zebras. For the most part, Gabon is basically um, different types of more tropical rainforests, but they're not all the same type of forest, but still unpreferable habitat for those animals. There are, however, around 200 to 300 hippos roaming the country, which is extremely small. Like, it's a tiny population, so they're very rare as well. There are no rhinos. There might be somewhere around 800 to 1,000 leopards in the country. Okay, so let's continue. So the Bateke Plateau has many more surprises hidden away. Oh, okay, so it's one of the gorilla populations in the area. Guess they're the little, um, they're a bit more secretive than other populations of gorilla. Mostly being vegetarian, though they will feed on certain species of termites and ants.
Wait, look. Hey,
Oh, it's further down. There we go. Oh, the little one? Yeah.
somebody's getting a piggyback ride.
That might be a bit of a slightly older male, but that could be a female. Camera traps have also snagged images of chimpanzees, Pantroglodytes, which is good to hear. They're not very common either. And a small cat called a serval. Well, considering how rare or scarce it just sounds like the animals are in general in the park, it's good to hear there's a serval. Whereas if you're over in different parts of Botswana or South Africa, you tell somebody that you saw a serval, they're like, okay. That's like somebody in Colorado telling somebody else they saw a bobcat. But this is really good to hear. Let's see. So the scientists suspect that the hyena may have come from Udazala Kukau National Park in the Republic of Congo. I wonder if this is adjacent to the Republic of the Congo border. And the Republic of the Congo is just northeast of Gabon. So guessing it's along the border. In 2017, Panthera, an NGO focused on the conservation of wildcats and the ecosystems in which they live, partnered with Gabon's National Parks Agency, known as ANPN, to bolster the protection of Bateke Plateau National Park and its growing wildlife population. Slightly increasing. The return of these large carnivores is a great demonstration that the efforts of our rangers and partners are having a positive effect on Bateke wildlife. Lee White, who directs the ANPN, said in the statement. Predators are gravitating to this protected zone, where prey numbers are recovering as a result of a long term commitment by ANPN and the Aspinall Foundation to protect the area. Well, here are the chimps. So they're in the more like mixed savanna forest sort of region. Certain chimp populations can be more of a forest, but these are seem to be more like the open um, mixed forest region, kind of like with what you see over in Senegal, which is not close to the region. I wonder if Bateke Plateau National Park is also one of those parks that has a mix of ecosystems. Well, here's the serval. He's not too far away. It's good to see he's here. Should have plenty of rodents to feed on. It tends to be their major prey source.
Well, then why doesn't he look like a fishing cat?
Um, yeah, he obviously is not being supplementally fed Indian Ocean tuna. Okay. Oh, is that it? Well, I mean, at least even for back then, it's good to see that they're here. Wonder what else or if anything else has changed. Um, Another thing. Oh, well, when it comes to this national, well, not national park, the country in general, the elephants. There are not any bush elephants over in Gabon. However, there could be somewhere between 90,000 to 105,000 African forest elephants in the country. So that's good to see. They do hold the core of the African forest population in general. Well, let's head to another part of the world. From Suzanne's momsblog.com. Fish Highway in Stockholm. What do we have here? So, installation of the fish counter at Gamla Stan in Slussen. The new fish highway in Stockholm has some of the first fish passages between the Baltic Sea and Lake Mälaren at Soderstrom in nearly 400 years. Wow, geez, what on earth? Why was it blocked off? Today's story is about how Sweden is giving a helping hand to migrating fish that are not strong swimmers. TIVA, an AI powered fish counting company, reports in mid 2024 a TIVA-FC was installed in connection to the newly built fish migration path at Slussen in Stockholm. This long-awaited passage allows fish to freely migrate between Lake Mälaren and Saltholm at Sodestrom for the first time in almost 400 years. As part of the reconstruction of Slussen, a new fish migration path has been constructed under the northern Sluis quay on the side of Gamla Stan. The old Nils Eriksson Sluis has been converted into a passage to facilitate the free movement of weak swimming species such as eel, roach, and perch. Species that were previously hindered by human infrastructure. Wow, so it was, well, of course, there's going to be other species. Sweden in general has about 140 different species of fish native to the country. The FC fish counter delivers improved results, both in image quality and AI based species and length classification. The Tiva FC at Slussen is connected to our cloud platform fiskdata.se. Here, data is available for both the client and, in this case, for the public. The city of Stockholm has chosen to broadcast a live stream via Tiva's YouTube channel. Shorter streams can also be broadcasted to other platforms like Facebook, depending on the client's needs. The city of Stockholm will install an informational screen for Fish TV on the crane structure.
Wait a minute. So we can watch the fish swim?
Yeah, by the fish counter. I guess it's like, watching different, but like salmon runs over in Alaska. Passerby in Gamla Stan will be able to learn more about the project, see selected videos, and get updates on the latest migrations. Around 50 different species of fish are migratory over in Sweden. So, and from Stockholm's website, you can watch online the fish swimming between Lake Mälaren and Saltholm. Moving between different areas is a natural part of life for many fish species. They migrate from their breeding grounds to spawning grounds to reproduce. When humans have blocked various watercourses, this has prevented fish species from passing through. To protect the fish and promote the environment, watercourses can be restored, or as here at Slussen, a fish migration route can be opened up. The primary purpose of the fish migration route is to enable passage between Lake Mälaren, and Saltholm for fish that do not jump, which is basically all species except salmon and sea trout. Okay. By building this route, we hope that species such as eel, roach, and perch will once again be able to pass here. The trail is designed by experts to mimic as natural an environment as possible. Stones of various sizes have been carefully placed along the trail. Some of the stones come from Gustav Vasa's 16th century or 1500s defensive wall, which was found during the excavations of Sodermalmstorg in 2022. The water flow needs to be calm so that the fish can stop and rest. There is lightings here so that the fish can swim in pleasant light. The fish walking trail is located under the quay on the old town side and is not visible from the outside. But you can
start an algae bar for them.
yeah, that sounds good. But you can watch the fish swimming through at fiskdata.se. All right, that's good to hear. I'm glad they're able to migrate again, as well as other species of fish. We need these fish species massively increased in population. It's quite a shock at how low that they are. Let's head back in time to another part of the world. From News, fossil of Middle Jurassic sauropodon dinosaur found in Morocco. So this is definitely a mysterious species of dinosaur, because the sauropodon refers to two major lineages of the ornithischians. The Ornithopoda, which is the family of dinosaurs, which would include the different species of iguanodontids, as well as the elasmarians and the hadrosaurs. And then there are the margocephalians, which would include the different species of ceratopsians, as well as the pachycephalosaurs. So animals such as Triceratops, Styracosaurus, and Alaskacephaly. Alaskacephaly being a pachycephalosaur. The new specimen represents the world's oldest sauropodon ornithischian dinosaur, according to a team of paleontologists from Saidi Muhammad bin Abdullah University. Oh, okay. The University of Birmingham and the Natural History Museum, London. I was worried that they named a place that in England. 'Cause I saw London in the corner of my eye. I'm like, wait. Okay, somewhere else. Sauropoda. They're found in Morocco. Okay. Sauropoda is a diverse clade of ornithischian dinosaurs with a global distribution, said Dr. Susanna Maidment, a paleontologist with the Natural History Museum, London, and the University of Birmingham, and colleagues. A major component of Cretaceous terrestrial ecosystems, early diverging sauropodans were bipedal, with forelimbs modified for grasping. But by the late Cretaceous, hadrosaurids and ceratopsids had evolved obligate quadrupedality and sophisticated chewing mechanisms, and they became the dominant herbivores of the northern hemisphere. Well, sauropods are like a word, but if you're talking about chewing mechanisms, that is true. The sauropods were simply the long-necked dinosaurs like Nemectosaurus, Australoposidon, Argentinosaurus during this time would simply grab onto um, branches of leaves and just strip them off and swallow them whole. Whereas the hadrosaurs would efficiently chew them to an extent like many species of herbivores today. Sauropoda is composed of two major clades: Ornithopoda, which includes the non-hadrosaurid iguanodontians, and the duckbill hadrosaurids, and Marginocephalia, which includes the horn-filled ceratopsians and the dome-headed pachycephalosaurs. Sauropodans are well known from the Cretaceous period, but their Jurassic record is much poorer. There are different species of ornithopods and ceratopsians that have been discovered back in the late Jurassic. Pachycephalosaurs, however, it seems to they really started evolving during the early Cretaceous. Let's bring up one earlier species. I mean, might include the others too, but Camptosaurus. So Camptosaurus. The species of dinosaur that I'm bringing up is a member of the ornithopod lineage of herbivorous dinosaurs. Oh. But the problem is this animal is AI picture, but yeah, his forearms, like his hands are definitely very far off. His feet look okay,
He's
but
also scaly.
um different species of iguanodontids could possibly have this type of a look, but I think it would be much smoother. We have found different skin specimens from different species of iguanodontids or ornithopods in general, where it does show a bit of a rougher sort of a skin accumulation, but not exactly in this way, or maybe in certain other parts of the body. But it looks like a more of an early Cretaceous sort of a iguanodontid, but its hands are off, or certain other things. Oh yeah, this individual. It is interesting how they gave this Camptosaurus in this picture a very almost duckbill dinosaur sort of look. The hadrosaurs or the duckbills won't exist for another 80 million years.
Okay, he's a little blurry.
Um. Oh, this is the Camptosaurus from Planet Dinosaur, which came out back in 2011. Still a bit off, I think, even for the time. The elongated back or the just increased height of its like pelvic and upper back vertebrae region is a bit off. And even though it is likely that Camptosaurus could somewhat walk on all fours, many reconstructions tend to show this ornithopod as being strictly bipedal. Also, it just seems a bit thin. I like it in the other picture where the overall, I guess, muscle texture of the animal seems a bit more matching, but still is on the other picture very robust or just stocky sort of um, an ornithopod. Also, I think the tail's a bit off here as well. So Camptosaurus existed back in the late Jurassic of Wyoming, Utah, South Dakota, around 152 million years ago. So it would have coexisted with different species of dinosaurs, such as the predatory Ceratosaurus, long-necked dinosaurs like Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus.
It's with this guy's arms.
This is one of the reconstructions of Camptosaurus from the, I'm guessing, 1950s, 1960s, where iguanodontids back at the time were reconstructed with extremely stocky legs, and overall, like, very thick tail, with also kind of a bit of a wide, I guess, in terms of height, maybe a tall core, not necessarily wide.
Look, have some fat ones.
Also very serious, but I think many species of iguanodontids in general have been, reconstructed as having, like, a very serious face. These 2 just look very argumentative, but they have very odd hands. Supposed to be Camptosaurus?
Yep.
Well, I guess you could say Camptosaurus had a bit,
Says it here.
yeah, less of a, sort of iguanodontid, or later, like, early Cretaceous sort of iguanodontid, hand structure, but still, there this is, it looks like a Decododon from North America, which wouldn't evolve for another 20 million years, um, or even Iguanodon from England. So this is, I mean, I think they're great drawings, but for Camptosaurus, I think it's just a bit too robust. Now, you could say the skull structure looks a bit less, I guess, large compared to its body size, unlike Iguanodon. The hands, also, like, Iguanodon has extremely thick fingers, or at least a bit of a hoof. Also, very elongated thumbs, like thumb claws or thumb spikes. Oh gosh, one of these. These are sad in different parks with, like, different dinosaur statues, and everybody, like, just is saddened by these type of reconstructions. Like, what was going on here? It's kind of like the Troodon reconstructions, I think, from the 1960s or 1970s, that are shown as being almost alien-like, or somebody took a frog and just gave it, um, I guess, primate characteristics. But yeah, this wouldn't be anybody. That's a bit better. Interesting. It's on one of those.
On a stamp.
Oh yeah, it's, what was hitting me? Like one of those train stamps.
I don't know if that's real or not.
Oh, it's Ceratosaurus skull, face on the left, and then yeah, the Camptosaurus. They're well. This Camptosaurus almost has like a theropod sort of a look to it, so almost like a certain carnivorous dinosaur. Those many, I'd say, reconstructions of Camptosaurus tend to show with a bit of a more slender sort of a neck structure.
And then I have your favorite one.
So the hands are a bit oddly placed too. They all should be face towards the ground. This Megalosaurus. Yes, it is an iconic Megalosaurus picture from the earlier 1900s. I'm guessing like 1930s, or probably 1930s to 1950s. But yeah, still very far off. Very small arms compared to its body size. Too squarish of a head. Too stocky of a tail as well. Um, Bit different, but similar to, I guess, that other Camptosaurus from like the 1960s that we saw. Where were we? Several track sites from the middle Jurassic. This is pushing somewhere around 175 to 180 years, 180 million years ago. Suggests that large-bodied ornithopods, probably guanodontians, had already evolved by this time, but their body fossils remain elusive. It does look like iguanodontids started already evolving by the Middle Jurassic, or somewhere between 165 and 180 million years ago. To elucidate the early stages of the evolution of Sauropoda, so these 2 massive lineages of dinosaurs, and to help resolve the numerous phylogenetic inconsistencies among different analyses, new specimens are needed, especially from historically undersampled localities. The new Sauropodan specimen, a portion of a left femur, was surface collected in 2020 in the Elmers III formation at Boafa near Wellimane, Middle Atlas Mountains, Morocco. I forgot we were over in North Africa. I was so focused on, or Camp Source was keeping us over in North America. Um, the fossil is Bethonian, Middle Jurassic in age, and dates to between 165 and 160 million years ago. The Yeah, you could 165 million years ago, you could technically call Middle Jurassic. 160, you're in the late Jurassic. The Variegated green and red mudstones of the formation are extremely fossiliferous and have so far yielded the remains of the world's oldest and first African ankylosaur, Spicomelus afer, and one of the oldest stegosaurs, Adratoclyx. The new specimen is the world's oldest sauropodon and only the second recorded from the Middle Jurassic globally. The specimen, although fragmentary, bears characteristics including a femoral head offset on a distinct neck and a constriction between the head and greater trochanter that unite it with sauropoda to the exclusion of other Neornithischians. Let's see, I'm trying to think. Let's bring up a species of theropod dinosaur that existed slightly before this animal. So the Lilian sternus. So Lilien St. Well, much earlier, but somewhere between 190 and 195 million years ago during the early Jurassic, and also over in North America. We had a large species of Neotheropoda, possibly even a member of Coelophysidae, that was roaming different parts of the United States back in the early Jurassic. Also, one of the largest
What am I looking at?
theropods of its time. I think it's one of those dinosaur suits that it's one of those plays maybe over. Oh,
Oh, because yeah, 'cause I'm
yes.
trying to figure out what I'm looking at. Somebody's leg.
I guess one of those shows over in like Japan or South Korea. There might be certain other countries that do this. Unfortunately, not here. But yeah, it's a costume. So this animal could reach somewhere around 20 to 23 feet in length, or pushing 6 to 7 meters. Probably weighed around 2,000 pounds, or pushing a ton, or a little over 950 kilograms. Was likely feeding on earlier species of sauropodomorphs, or the prosauropods at the time. Um, I think this was from that documentary that recently came out, The Dinosaurs, which was a bit slow. But anyway, when it came to Lilian sternus, this animal was also likely feeding on certain species of terrestrial crocodilomorphs that existed at the time as well. So later relatives of the former Rausuchians that would have existed back in the Triassic period, like the Postosuchus. Well, this is an older reconstruction. I like how agile they make this animal look. It's probably also supposed to represent a younger Lilian sternus. Despite the double-headed crest, it is a bit distantly related to slightly more famous or renowned theropod species from the Jurassic, such as Dilophosaurus.
Okay, another dancing dinosaur.
This one looks a bit better. It's also very possible that these earlier species of neotheropods had feathers. Even though Cretaceous theropod dinosaurs tend to be, especially like small to medium sized species, tend to be reconstructed with feathers. It's also very likely, not just back in the Jurassic, especially the early Jurassic, but into the Triassic, these different species of theropods had feathers as well. The late Jurassic is interesting because outside of very small predators, most other species do not tend to be reconstructed with feathers, especially when it comes to different members of Allosauridae, which at this point in time had not evolved yet. Many, in fact, different species or different lineages of theropod dinosaurs, especially the megalosaurs, had not evolved yet, but they would eventually, especially like around 180 million years ago. But this is around 10 to 15 million years beforehand. This is a good reconstruction of a Lilian sternus. So this animal would still be somewhere around 7.5 to 8 feet in height, or pushing somewhere around 2.5 meters. So yeah, I think it's got a very slender build. Also, when it comes to its jaw, it's very thin and narrow. Has a bit of a sort of like a Dilophosaurus coelophysis, sort of a mix or an accumulation to it. And also side-facing eyes, so very peripheral vision. Many species of early theropod dinosaurs did not have the binocular forward-facing vision, that different species of theropod dinosaurs later on in the Mesozoic, different species of dromaeosaurs, tyrannosaurs would have, which is odd. Okay, let's see what else they found. Further sampling of the Elmer's the Third Formation, Morocco, is crucial for understanding the Middle Jurassic radiation of Ornithischian dinosaurs. Did I say that? Oh no, it's up there. Well, this is very mysterious as to what they found. I'll have to go over these earlier species. Like probably what they're referring to are the beginnings of the Eutherians, which is the lineage of dinosaurs and Ornithischiae that would evolve into the different species of stegosaurs, nodosaurs, and ankylosaurs. So let's head forward in time to another part of the world. Like the final article, too. From abcnews.com. Critically endangered Sumatran rhino born at Indonesian sanctuary. About 30 mature Sumatran rhinos are estimated to be living in the wild. Well, this is from 2023. I haven't been hearing a lot about the Sumatran rhino like population in general, but I think it's iffy between 30 to 50 individuals. But that's good to hear that we've got one. We have had one recently born over in Sumatra. So, Sanctuary in Indonesia is celebrating the birth of a Sumatran rhino, the most threatened species of rhinoceros in the world. The Javan rhino is not far behind. There's only about 80 to 100 Javan rhinos over on the island of Java in Indonesia. The healthy male calf was born on Saturday at the Sumatran Rhino Sanctuary at Way Kambas National Park in the Lampung province, the Indonesian government announced Sunday. The island of Sumatra has around 3 different national parks. However, there are a handful of other wildlife sanctuaries in which the Sumatran rhino inhabits. There are also Sumatran tigers in the region as well. The baby rhino is the first for his mother, Delilah, as well as his father, Harapan, a male Sumatran rhino born at the Cincinnati Zoo. Indonesian Minister of Environment and Forestry, Siti Nurbaya, said in a statement. Well, he seems like a relatively healthy individual.
It looks like a clay animation.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, Sumatran rhinos tend to have that type of a look. Let's see. Actually, let's bring up a picture of an adult. So just Sumatran. And then there's another animal closely related to the Sumatran rhino that I'd like to bring up.
This one looks like clay animation too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well, if you notice, like, why the mud on him or the clay looks so rigid, it's because that's fur. They are basically the woolly rhinos of today.
Are you saying rigid?
Yeah. Um, like Sumatra rhinos, you can tell he's somewhat furry, but they are very fluffy when they're first born.
Where's the horn?
They do have the shortest horns compared to their body size of any species of rhino. The Javan rhino comes second. They're fairly short. Occasionally, they might reach around a foot in height or pushing point point 3 meters. There he is. Yeah, that's your typical Sumatran rhino horn. Yeah, he's quite fluffy. They feed on around 150 different species of leaves or different species of plants over on the island of Sumatra. So they have quite a large variety of different species of plants that they feed on. They also reach somewhere around 2 tons, which for an island animal, a modern island land mammal, it's a very large size. They might be the largest. Well, okay, there's a Sri Lankan elephant, which is much larger. Also the Sumatran elephant as well. Oh yeah, there's a baby. He looks yeah, pretty healthy. Yeah, gosh, look how furry he is. And yeah, his mother as well. Let's look up their extinct close relative. So the Coelodontia antiquitatis. So Ceolodonta. It is, in fact, the woolly rhino from the Ice Age of Eurasia, as well as Alaska and the Yukon of Canada. So, whereas the somewhat woolly rhinos of today, the Sumatran rhino, reach somewhere around 2 tons. These animals could reach somewhere around 4 to 5.5, maybe pushing a little over 6 tons, about the size of today's white rhinos over in, or southern white rhinos over in Africa. So, was this from Prehistoric Kingdom? I mean, it's still not a bad model. So yeah, Coelodonte could also reach a height of somewhere around 7 feet at the shoulder, maybe slightly taller as well, or pushing around 2.1, 2.2 meters, and likely feeding, or it was feeding on a wide variety of different species of grasses on the mammoth steppe, in which it coexisted with different herds of woolly mammoths, as well as different species of ancient ice age deer that existed on the mammoth steppe as well, different species of ancient moose. Oh yeah, this is an interesting model. I thought it was a clay model for a second. But, they also had some of the longest horns compared to their body size of any species of rhino, and we do have preserved, intact specimens of Coelodonte specifically. There were certain other species of rhinos that existed at the time, like back over in Europe, and, they were a bit smaller in Coelodonte, but also having shorter horns in general, also not being as furry. Coelodonte and Tyquetus in general had just a much larger core compared to other species of rhinos. Other species of rhinos didn't have more of like a slender sort of a gait or a longer sort of a body compared to Coelodonte. It's quite stockish, but they did coexist with cave lions. Whereas it seems that the major predator of Sumatran rhino is the Sumatran tiger. So, although Delilah's a first time mom, she began nursing her calf immediately after he was born with no fuss or fanfare. Nina Facione, executive director of the International Rhino Foundation, said in a statement: "It's an incredible event that gives hope to the future of this critically endangered species. The calf, whose name was not released, is the second to be born at the sanctuary in 2 months and the fifth birth at the sanctuary overall." Wow, that's really good to hear. I didn't realize that many Sumatran rhinos were born. And while that sounds like a very small number, considering how few there are, that's really good to hear. Delilah herself was the second calf to be born at the sanctuary in 2016 and is now the first captive born Sumatran rhino to give birth. Oh, wow. That's really good. I mean that's shocking as well. Sumatran rhinos are listed as critically endangered on the International Union for the Conservation of Nature's Red List of Threatened Species. There are only about 30 mature Sumatran rhinos living in the world, all in Indonesia, and their population is decreasing, according to the IUCN. I think it's increasing, unless you're talking about older individuals or maybe certain ones that had disease. Um, Maybe even got poached, then that's certainly possible. Yeah, they used to have a much larger home range further, on the mainland. Yeah, so here's the calf. Yeah, he looks pretty healthy. I wonder if that picture was specifically of him. So progress made in recent years is pointing toward the possible survival of the species. 2 years ago, there was only one captive Sumatran rhino pair in the world able to successfully produce offspring. Now there are three pairs. I think it was the ones over in the Cincinnati Zoo. And then back in 2017 and 2018, I think they were moved to Sumatra. Like, there was like a not necessarily a series, but footage of just them moving the rhino, constantly interacting with it, feeding it, giving it a health checkup, hydrating the individuals. So that was really fun to see. Now there are three pairs, six rhinos in total who are proven breeders. That's really good to hear. Pretty that's pretty good for the population. This equates to much better odds for the long-term survival of the species. The Sumatran rhino breeding program has never been in a better position. Huh. Well, I guess they've been with them all their life, so they could just go right up to them. So there are now 10 Sumatran rhinos living at the sanctuary, a semi wild breeding and research facility managed by the Rhino Foundation of Indonesia. Veterinarians and animal care staff will closely monitor Delilah and her calf while they bond, said Hensen Manensang, executive director of the foundation. The goal of the breeding program is to eventually supplement the declining wild population of Sumatran rhinos, said Satyawan Pudyamoko, Director General of the Indonesian Ministry of Forests, Natural Resources, and Ecosystem Conservation. In the future, rhinos born at the sanctuary could be released back to their natural habitats. Yeah, I think that's just the goal anyway, is for that to occur. Going forward, the Rhino Foundation of Indonesia continues to be committed to assisting and fully supporting the programs and efforts of the government of the Republic of Indonesia, especially in rhino conservation efforts in Indonesia. Okay, so yeah, it's really good to hear that we have another Sumatra rhino being born. So, thanks for joining. And from Prehistoric to Present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. We're streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. Happy International Titanosaur Day. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.